welcome to another episode of Hidden Pearls, Inspiring Stories. Now, today we meet a dynamic deal manager at a major tech company. She's also a devoted mother to 4 energetic boys, now 3 of who have a very unique yet nerve-wracking sport. And on top of that, she's a recent MBA graduate with NUS. So with resilience, determination, and a knack for multitasking, let's dive in with Hakiima Zainol. Hi, welcome to another episode of Hidden Pearls, Inspiring Stories. Today, I'm delighted to have a dear girlfriend with me. Last we met was, we spent a good week at Korea. We went crazy stocking up on makeup and skincare essentials. So today, Hakiima, over to you to give a brief introduction about yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Hakiima. I've been friends with Nora for more than a decade now. We started off, she was actually, my property agent, and she sold my house. And from there, the friendship bloomed and we became very good friends. For me personally, I am a deal manager working in a tech company. I have been working in tech for about 14 years now. My current role is as a deal manager is to negotiate commercial and legal contracts for some of our largest customers. And on top of, besides professionally, I am a mother of 4 boys.
Wow, Alhamdulillah. Okay, so Hakiima, you have a demanding career at a major tech company, and then home front, you also have challenges, which we will reveal more along the way. So, how do you even balance this?
So I think first of all, people talk a lot about work-life balance, but I want to change that nuance a little bit, and I consider a lot of work-life integration. So the difference is, because, there's never going to be a 50-50 balance with work and with home and with everything else that we do. So I prefer to think of it as a, work-life integration, because that's where, there's boundaries between work and personal can be a little bit more fluid. You are a little bit more adaptable, and, rather than striving for, ways to compartmentalize work and family, you look for an approach to sort of bring them together to have a good balance at the end of the day, right?
Oh, this.
So it's true, being actually, I think it's not just about tech, right? A lot of us are working mothers, and being a working mother, regardless of whatever field that you are in, will have its own challenges, right? Whether you are in public service, you're a stay-at-home mom, our roles as women is very demanding because you wear multiple hats. And so I think, it's necessary for us to practice, self-care. It's necessary for us to, ensure that we are well taken care of ourselves in order for us to be able to, wear multiple hats and do our best selves in each of the roles that we have.
Nice. I think it's beautiful. Maybe I want to slate a bit about self-care. You are right. Maybe you can give me an example about self-care. Salon date at Palista, perhaps, eh?
Yeah. So before
Okay.
I go into self-care, let me tell you a little bit of a story, right?
Okay.
So I have an executive coach where I speak to very regularly. And I think it was maybe about a year and a half back, as we wear multiple hats and we had a lot of things going on in our lives. She asked me a very crucial question. And she said, Hakiima, you are a mother, you're a wife, you're an employee. At that time I was a student, so many things. She asked me, where do you rank yourself in this, 5-6 different roles? And so I told her, at that time, she mentioned about 6 things. And I said number 6. And she said, why? Why do you rank yourself number 6? And it was very hard for me to accept, because I realized that while wearing multiple hats, I have actually deprioritized myself, and my well-being was really down the drain. And it took me, months to sort of really realize that I needed to prioritize and take care of myself, because otherwise I cannot be my best self for everybody. So that included, rekindling my love for going to the spa, going to Palista, and just taking care of myself in the best way that I can, spending time with myself, so that when I feel good, I'm able to, then take care of everybody else around me.
Right. Oh, this is lovely. Now, you mentioned about challenges and whatnots, right? You seem to be very on top of things, very in control of things, and I like that fluidity. But was there a point where you actually broke down? You know, because what was the hardest part of managing this career as well as family? Have you ever, was there ever a breakdown for you?
Actually, that was my that story I just told you about,
Right.
talking to my coach, right? That was actually a
I
very
see.
low point. At that realization of not having a very good mental well-being, and I was just physically very exhausted. I remember I went to work, and I had an offsite, and my boss asked me, "How are you doing?" And I just broke down. I couldn't say anything. I cried in front of her. I cried in front of my teammates. And that was my breaking point. But, being vulnerable in front of the people that you see so many hours in a day, actually was a turning point for me, because I realized that I needed to ask for help, right? I needed to be more open with my manager and with my teammates, to ask for help at work. But at the same time, I also needed help at home, and I needed my spouse, my children to play their part at home, so that we can function well, right? It's not just on me. It's not a one man show. That was my realization, that life is not about being a one man show, because a lot of people will say, "Oh, you are like superwoman, you can do this and that." But really, it's not, right? It's not on you to carry that burden alone. It's for you to be able to make the system work for you and the people around you.
Right. Yeah. So I think you're right. No, the support network from people at your different stages of your life is very important. And I think here, and not I think, but I'm very confident to say that your spouse plays a very important role in your life, because your job requires you to also keep traveling quite often.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, now not so much, but prior to COVID, I was traveling a lot for work. In fact, almost every month I'm out, and sometimes, I mean, can be short trips, a few days, but it can also take more than a week, for example. And we don't have a helper. We've never had a helper. It was a conscious effort for us to, run the household on our own. And so, who else is going to do the housework? The people in the house lah, so I told my husband, you don't want to have a helper, then you need to do the housework. You need to play your part and carry the role of being available and present for the kids and the household when I'm not around, right? um, so it's a system that is built over the years, and I can confidently go away, even for girls trip, for example, right, for a week, and know that the household will run, the boys will be fine, because over many years, it is it's teamwork in the family, to make sure that everybody is able to do their part and their share to make the household work.
Love it. I love it, because teamwork really makes the dream work. Now let's
Yeah.
move on to your boys. You're a mother of four, and here their interest and their choice of sport is something so unique. Maybe you want to share with the listeners more about this, and how all of this started.
Okay, so I have four boys. Three of them are racing competitively in a two-wheel sport. When I say two-wheel sport, it ranges from push bikes for the youngest one, and for the oldest one is motorcycle racing. So I know it's not the preferred sport for many parents, because it's a high risk sport, but it's something that we enjoy as a family, and the boys really love it. They have a very deep passion for racing. So how it started, basically my a few years ago, my brother owns a garage, right, best garage, and my brothers were very much into the scene because it is part of the industry he's in, and they were setting up a kids academy at that time. And so he asked me, Kak, you want to let the boys try this, and of course I said, okay. They were much younger. My oldest one at that time was maybe in like primary 5 or something. And I said, okay, now we let him try. And then from there, it seems like, they can write, they can sort of, it's a skill that they learn. And so we decided to just sort of embark, but it was very much, like as and when there was, kita happy, we go lah, But last year, my oldest son, who is now 16, he just finished O levels. He started racing competitively. So he was racing in the national championship series. He started, and so we realized that, oh, okay, this boy has got the ability, something that we can sharpen, and he really enjoyed. It was like an avenue for him that was different from his regular CCA in school. So we decided to let him sort of pursue that passion for a bit.
Wow. Okay. But no, speaking of this, because it is quite a unique sport, can
Yeah.
are there even any race tracks around in Singapore? And then
We used
how did you
to, yeah.
practice with the boys? Yeah.
So we used to be able to practice at KF1, which is in Kranji.
Okay.
But this year they actually took back the track, so there's no more race tracks available in Singapore. So we have to go to Malaysia to do all our trainings. So I don't know how many times this year I've gone up and down to Malaysia, the macam second citizenship. We have been up and down, to Tangkap. That is the track that we practice and we race at. It's about a 2-hour drive from Singapore, just the border of Johor and Malacca. And so we go very often, at least once a month, to sort of train there. But at the same time, we also go up to Sepang to train, and where the boys have a coach and to train them.
Okay. Wow. This one requires a lot of commitment, eh? With regards to your family lah. So okay, but okay, now that your son is racing, let's talk about Aiman. Okay, your 16-year-old son.
Yeah.
Did you ever suffer from any injuries, any serious injuries?
So the first time I remember, he sustained an injury. Falling down from the bike and just like sliding off your bike and onto the track has become the norm. The first time I saw him sort of fall, of course my heart dropped lah. But after that it became sort of like, okay, crashing is normal. And my husband was like, biasalah tu jatuh. So, but for the men, I feel that they can take it a little bit more lah. But for mothers, we're the ones that give birth to the kids. Our hearts sometimes cannot lah. But I remember the first time he sustained a major injury was during training, and then he fell. And then he said he couldn't really move his hand. And I remember my husband was like, oh, if you feel fine, you go back on track. And I said, no, this boy needs to seek medical attention, And then we went home and I realized that his thumb was swollen. It was really blue-black. And I immediately rushed him to the A&E, where we found he had a broken thumb.
Okay.
And so, it was nearly race time during that period. And so he had to miss his race because, well, obviously, broken thumb, you cannot do much with your hands lah, kan? And so we had to take him out of the race. But I think that propelled him to do better. He trained a lot. He really stuck to his, recovery. And then he actually came back. So his maiden race, first ever race after the crash, he actually won third, and which was a very big achievement given he had a broken thumb. He recovered from his injury and he ran his maiden race and got on the podium.
Oh my goodness, so much resilience in him as well. Now, okay, we are going to move on to his adik, if that's okay. What I've been discussing this with you. Like parents to 18-year-old children, be it girls or boys, we get a bit worried because especially when they express interest of, Ma, can I have a motorcycle license? Itu aja kita dah macam, oh my goodness, okay, this is so worrying. But now, okay, Aiman aside, you have actually given the green light to your 10-year-old son, Aris, to race competitively. I mean, what are you thinking there, girl? Because kita, as a mother and me as a soccer mom, we get a bit worried when there's collision or injuries. But and we watched, me and Esman, we watched the race, and it was nerve wracking. So how do you navigate this danger, this potential danger, that can envelop your sons?
So I think firstly, before we touch on the topic of Aris, so myself and Adil, we are both riders. I started riding motorcycle from a very early age in my life. After I got my car license, I got my bike license. I was actually riding more than I was driving, right? And my husband is a motorsports enthusiast. He watches MotoGP. Like Sundays, if there's MotoGP, nobody can touch the TV. And so from there, I think there is common interest between the two of us, which makes it comfortable. We know the risk associated with motorcycle riding and racing because we have been exposed to it for many years. Now, Aris is 10 years old. He is the only 10-year-old today in Singapore that has a race license. He doesn't have the motorcycle license for the road, but he is the only 10-year-old in Singapore that has a race license. And the same thing with his abang. I mean, I think he started at a younger age, about 5 years old, where he was riding pocket bikes, but very much in a very controlled environment. Because it is very different riding on track versus on the road. On the road, there's many things you cannot control. But on the track, there are things that you can control. So safety is definitely a key thing that we, push to the boys. So, yeah. So firstly, they need to have, we promote a safety first mindset to the boys. Whatever happens when you are on track, safety comes first. For example, if you think that, while they are racing, if you think that you cannot commit to this attack, you don't. You just let the person pass. Safety must come first. At the end of the day, even if you, it doesn't matter if you didn't win first, second, third, you didn't get on the podium, but you finished the race safely. Alhamdulillah. That is what we always preach to the boys. Yeah. Secondly, I think it's important for us to invest in high quality gears. Not just high quality gears, but also, in order for us to be able to race effectively, there needs to be a lot of safety protocols and safety checks. So in terms of gear, for example, we do invest in the boys' punya gears to make sure that they have very good equipment for them to race, especially at a young age. So, for example, Aris at that time, he had this particular helmet, and we were told that when he was going to race internationally, that helmet tak pas because of the strap and all that. So we managed to get a sponsor, with sponsorship from Chong Ai to get like good quality helmets for him. And they supported us, right? They supported our young talent to be able to pursue this sport. And then at the same time, we are part of a racing team. NT Racing is, our second family. And we have a lot of professionals, motorcycle technicians. We even have some of the best racers on the team. And they are the ones that, ensure that the boys keep that safety first mindset, but all the safety protocols in check. So that's the second thing. The third thing is training. Because riding motorcycle, like how if you want to get a license, you have to go to the training center to learn how to navigate and all that. There's a different level of training for motorcycle racing, so we get proper training and coaching for the boys, either from some of the more experienced riders on the team, but the boys also have a coach, a racing coach, and that's why we go up and down to Malaysia. So there's one portion of that safety that you can control. But there's another part of it that you cannot control, because as much as you put all the safety into place, at the end of the day, there are things you cannot control on track. Maybe the weather, the track condition on that day and all that. And for that, I would say at the end of the day, it is for us to tawakal. And I realized that my role as a mother is really to doa. More than the logistics and anything, my doa is an arrow that never misses its target. So it's very important that I really tawakal and reda. And for the boys to make sure that they do their part, Aiman and Aris make sure that they solat hajat before they race, they zikir before they move off, they baca doa. So there are things that you cannot control, but you put some of this into place, right? And so that part to me is like sometimes you have to redor, because when you see your child fall on track, what can you do? You cannot run to the track and pick him up. He has to figure it out himself. But what you can do is just doa. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot at his mercy,
Yeah.
for whatever that happens around us. Yeah, very true. Now, am I also right to say that your son's ultimate dream is to be a professional racer?
Um, I think more for Aris. I think he's at his 10, so he is still at that age where anything can happen in life. And so if you ask him what is his ultimate goal, he will tell you he wants to be Singapore's first MotoGP rider or racer. But for Aiman, for example, he understands that in Singapore it's very tough. Sports is very tough. I would say most sports is very tough in Singapore. And so he understands that while he has goals to do international races and all that, he is also on the path to pursue his education, to make sure that he has the right education to make a living and be successful in whatever line that he pursues, and then he can on the sideline pursue whatever passion he has with motorcycle racing at a different level.
Yeah, his is more realistic lah. Now
Realistic, he's older.
kan? They're more realistic lah, because a 10-year-old, they are dreamers
Yeah,
to begin with.
correct.
These younger children. Now, we have your second born, Alfie. He does not race. He does not have any interest in racing. Now,
Yeah.
how do you make sure that he feels included and equally supported in your family's dynamic?
Yeah. So when we say that Alfie is not racing, it's not that he cannot ride a motorcycle. We've allowed him to try out, but he himself has expressed non-interest in the sport, right? And as parents, I think our role is to support and encourage our children in whatever passion and interest that they have. So if you don't like motorcycle racing, it's okay, right? Alfie is very much a bookworm. He loves going to the library. He loves borrowing, 10 books at one time. And he's also passionate about playing floorball. So we've recently included him in a floorball academy, and he enjoys his Sundays with his new teammates. And, that's a sport that he enjoys, right? But I think that message there is that as parents, we need to celebrate individuality, right? Each child is unique. It's important that we know their interests, their choices, without comparing them to each other. It doesn't matter if you have no interest in sports or racing in particular, but we need to celebrate their achievements as is. You like books, great. You like floorball, great, right? And we need to make sure that they feel valued with whatever choice that they have made. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is that we need to foster sibling empathy. Because, for example, when Aris and Aiman are talking about racing, there's a lot of technical terms that comes up with it that even I sometimes I'm not sure of. So when Alfie is in the conversation, how do you make sure that he is also included in that? So Alfie today is our logistics manager. So before a race, he preps for, of course, the boys will prep their own equipment, but he is the one that makes sure that, okay, water bottle ada, this ada, that ada, that kind of thing. He helps Adil to load the car. So he is the one that makes sure that operationally we are ready to go. And I think he takes that job very seriously, because he knows that he cannot contribute to the racing part. But he contributes in other ways. So we make sure that the siblings also recognize his efforts as the logistics manager, that his role is very important. You don't have your logistics manager, we cannot go, right? So that helps with maintaining that strong family bonds, because everybody has a part to play. And the last part, I think, is as parents, we need to lead by example, right? How we show up as parents, the words that we say to them, just making sure that we recognize how different they are, that they're unique is important, right? Because and I'll give you an example. We have seen races where parents will diss the kids, right? Tulang kau, macam gini, that kind of thing, and it's not good sportsmanship, right? We as parents need to show up as good sportsmen first before the athletes themselves show up as good athletes and sportsmen. So leading by example helps us to ensure that Elfie is always included in whatever that we do. And we always make sure that he has a part to play, whether it is going for training, whether it's going for races, or even, when we do, for example, like a media interview, he needs to make sure that he has a say in the kind of things that he's doing.
So he is an important pillar, for sure. So
Absolutely.
when he becomes a floorball expert, dia punya adik-beradik punya turn lah to pack for him to become his logistics pula.
No, actually, one of the other things that we have recently, because since he started the academy and he's been more involved, right? We now incorporate floorball as part of the boys' training. So weekly, when the boys, so like Aiman and Aris, they usually go cycling. They also do fitness training. So fitness training is all done together. But then we incorporate floorball as an activity for them to train their stamina, their agility. So it becomes something that they can all play together also. So nobody is excluded.
No, I think it's beautiful because how it is also about how they add value to one another. So
Yeah.
it's really lovely to witness this. Now, Hakima, we've talked about your career. We've also talked about your children. Now I'm going to focus about you, okay? Now, first of all, congratulations in graduating with MBA from NUS. Now,
Thank you.
what actually motivated you to go back to school? I mean, aren't you not busy enough, sis?
So my MBA was actually a lifelong dream. I at the age of in my early 20s, when we were a little bit younger, I always told myself, my dream was to finish my MBA by the age of 35. But life happened. You had one child after another child. Work and family, so many things happen. And so that dream was basically put on hold. And then during COVID, I was working from home a lot. Because most of us were working from home a lot. But for me, I asked myself, what more can I, do to sort of for myself achievement. And then this MBA thought came back, because I'm like, okay, that is not something that I have ticked off my list yet, right? And so I decided that I would go back to school part time while working, in order to fulfill my own dream. Because I think, firstly, there's never going to be a good time to do anything. You want to wait until you are, I don't know, whatever age or to do. But you have kids, you want to wait until the kids are this age. There's never going to be a good time to do something. So I feel like you have to sort of embrace that challenge and then start to look at ways where you can make things work. So I decided to go back to school to fulfill my own personal dream to be an MBA.
Okay. And did this MBA experience, right, influence your approach to work or to your family life in general?
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, it was tough because I didn't quit my work. I was working in the day, and then malam I had to go to school, which means that I needed to prioritize what I had to do for the day, to make sure I finish work so that I can go to school and uninterrupted, right? I didn't want to go to school and still think about work, for example, right? And still think about and then at home, the boys have homework, they have this and they have that. So I feel like it changed the way I had to prioritize, firstly. I had to ensure that, I kept a very tight calendar, to make sure that I am still on top of things. Of course, there will be days when you lose it lah. It's normal. We are all humans, right? But you put in mechanisms in place to make sure that things can run. So, for example, at home, I had very strong support from my husband to make sure that he took over the kids' punya school homework, make sure that they did their work and all that. And also, it gave responsibility to the older boys to help with dinner, with making sure that their siblings are okay. So I had to. I feel like my mindset had to change. Number one, around the prioritization, right? And then secondly is when I went through the MBA itself, it opened up my I had to mingle with a lot of different people because I have been in the same company, the same industry for 14 years. So when I was able to work alongside people from different industries, different backgrounds, that really opened up my mind to different viewpoints. And so I felt like that was really a growth mindset moment for me to think like, okay, not everything has to be done this way. Things can go a different way, and also for me to take feedback from my children more openly because, you have to practice active listening to your new friends. You have to build that relationship. So there was a lot of different viewpoints. I had to sort of reset the way I approach different things lah, I guess. Yeah.
Wow, so this the experience really widened your horizons and your perspectives as well.
Yeah.
Now, okay, Hakima, you are truly an inspiration. Now, if you could share advice, nuggets of wisdom to listeners on how to balance career, family, and even personal goals, what would that be?
So okay, that's a lot. Okay. Firstly, let me share a little bit about my principles. These are the principles that I live by, that I always think about in everything that I do. Right. The first one is to try. You live with no regrets. Right. I don't want a time for me when I grow old and I look back and I'm like, I didn't do that. I should have done that. I want to be able to say I tried that, even if I didn't succeed in it, but I already tried, right? So that's my first principle. You must always try and live with no regrets. Um, the second piece is celebrate small successes daily. Sometimes we wait for the big things in life for us to celebrate, to say, oh, I made it. But I feel like life itself is a journey. And I mean, life is a journey, and you need to celebrate the small successes daily. So, on a daily basis, I practice. I have a small little sort of diary where I write down 2 to 3, things that I'm grateful for. My gratitude book, right? Because you need to be able to say, today I did this or the kids did this, and something that you're thankful for, because it keeps you going. So you celebrate the small successes daily and don't wait for the big success. I mean, you get the big success, great, but there's something to be happy about every day. My last point is pay it forward always. No matter where you are in life, there's always an opportunity for you to give back to someone else. When I say give back, it's not just about donation or something, but even things like this where you're sharing knowledge, you're sharing experiences, and someone else can learn and maybe gain something for it. I take it as a great opportunity for me to sort of pay it forward. So taking my that 3 kind of principles that I live by, I would say then, in order for us, for me to sort of balance, as I said just now, not balance but integration, right? But I would say then embrace intentional balance, right? Because it's about prioritizing what truly matters in each area of your life. So instead of like striving for like equilibrium, balance, it's really about creating harmony in your life because you're intentionally making a point for you to have sort of that balance. You're embracing because you intentionally made that point sort of come in your life, right? So we talked a lot about racing. So I would then also just leave the listeners with this quote, right? Valentino Rossi is one of the greatest MotoGP riders of all time that I consider. My husband also considered the same. And he has a very famous quote. He said, riding a race bike is an art, a thing you do because you feel something inside, right? And what that means for me is that everything that you do, you need to have passion, you need to feel for it, you need to be super enthusiastic and excited about it, right? Because you will do 1,000 things in a day. In your lifetime, you will do so many different activities, right? But make sure those activities were intentional, to make you feel like it was worth it, right? You did what you did. You tried. You lived with no regrets, and you celebrated it every single day.
So many valuable takeaways, mashallah. It's about, feeling the fire inside you and everything will just flow naturally. And
Yeah.
I have a feeling that a lot of our listeners will go to the bookshop and get a book because I really agree with you
Yeah.
about celebrating the small daily wins and how important it is to journal this gratitude so that you stay
Yeah.
on course for this path of fulfillment. So thank you so much, Hakima, for being with
Very
us.
much
It has
welcome.
been such a pleasure. And yeah, we'll catch up soon, okay?
No, thank you very much for having me, and I hope your listeners will benefit from this session. Whatever it is, I think we all have something that we want to learn every single day. So take the learnings and move on.
Yay. All right. See you. Take care.
Thank you.